And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome aboard. I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan, and this is your Alaska Marine Weather Outlook on the first day of September 2025. On this Labor Day, we continue to watch the late season final bit of ice melt off that may be occurring here up along the Beaufort Sea coast, but otherwise fairly open water everywhere, and we're almost to the minimum ice extent that usually happens within the second to third, that's that middle part of September up to about the equinox. So that's almost here, just 2 to 3 weeks away. And we continue to have an area of low pressure out here in the central Bering. You can see the showers, these popcorn looking like clouds. And we have a band of moisture streaming northward across the Alaska Peninsula into the southwest and western interior. And this frontal boundary will slowly work its way eastward. Meanwhile, high pressure over the Gulf and North Pacific is providing a lot of sunshine to the southeast mainland, Copper River Valley up toward Tanana Valley Northway, and then also in through the Panhandle. In fact, heat advisories are in effect for tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoon, early evening for temperatures in both northern and southern parts of the Panhandle as warm as the mid-70s to lower 80s, so very warm late summer readings there in the southeast. On the weather map Tuesday afternoon, we still have the high surface high there south of the Gulf in the North Pacific, kind of a stalled out frontal boundary along the Kenai Peninsula and just south of the Alaska Peninsula, waiting for the next wave of low pressure to ride northward toward Bristol Bay. That will happen Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. We've had overnight, this Monday night into Tuesday morning, there's a potent little shortwave rotating around this low pressure that's bringing gusty winds. So along the lower Yukon coast into the east side of Norton Sound, there may be elevated surf. There's an elevated surf advisory there along the lower Yukon coast through Tuesday morning for water levels maybe a couple of feet higher than the normal high tide. And then on Wednesday, here comes that next low pressure coming on shore there from Bristol Bay, Togiak, Dillingham with some more rain. And that moisture will be spreading north and eastward. And still, though, Wednesday, another warm day across the Panhandle with that, not just at the surface, but the mid and upper level ridge providing for very warm temperatures, very stable conditions and more sunshine. Some cooler air, though, lurking up there toward eastern Russia and way up there toward the Russian Arctic coast. Some of that cooler air will eventually be heading southeastward, but not right away. And on Tuesday, in the inner channels of the Panhandle, southeast winds 10 knots, Lynn Canal waves a foot or two, and then northwest winds 10 to 15 knots from Petersburg down through Ketchikan, Metlakatla with waves no more than 3 feet. Outer coast, strongest winds outside of Cove Sound as well, or Cross Sound, as well as off of Port Alexander, 25 knot northwest winds, waves there 8-9 feet. On Wednesday, winds are going to come down, especially along the outer coast. Inner coast, north winds 10 knots, Lynn Canal down through Stevens Passage, and then southeast wind, Dixon Entrance 10 knots, so waves only a foot or two. And along the outer coast, generally northwest winds 15 knots outside of Cross Sound, Sitka, Port Alexander with waves 5-6 feet. Pretty light winds Tuesday, light variable winds around 10 knots within Prince William Sound, outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance to Kayak Island off the eastern Kenai coast and lower Cook Inlet with waves generally not more than a couple few feet. Winds, though, as you get around Anchor Point up to Upper Cook Inlet, look for southwest to south winds 20 knots with waves 3 to 4 feet. And then on Wednesday, we're expecting within Prince William Sound, southeast winds 10 knots, waves a foot or two. Winds outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance, variable to southerly 10 to 15 knots. As we look at the entrance to Cook Inlet, look for southeast winds Wednesday, 20 to 25 knots, waves 4 to 5 feet. Then kind of a mixed bag of winds going up through Cook Inlet Wednesday. Easterly winds there north of Anchor Point, 15 knots. North winds up there along the northern portion of the inlet, especially north of Kenai with waves running a couple of feet. Winds will generally be variable across the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island on Tuesday, 10 to 15 knots, even 20 knots there off of Sandpoint and False Pass. Waves 3 to 5 feet on the North Pacific side, 3 to 6 feet on the Bering side. And then for Wednesday, with the low pressure lifting north up into the southwest interior and the front coming through, south winds 20 to 25 knots around Kodiak Island, veering southwest, Port Hayden, Chiknik, and then becoming northwest on the backside, 15 to 20 knots through the lower half of the Alaska Peninsula. Winds will be rather variable to start out. Tuesday, eastern Aleutians 15 to 20 knots on Alaska, only around 10 knots. Nikolsky through Atka and Adak. As you get further north and west, winds become southwesterly 15 knots near Kiska and up east of Shemya. And then on Wednesday, look for generally northwest winds 15 to 20 knots across the eastern Aleutians, turning southerly 15 to 20 knots, Atka to Adak, and then going easterly, southeast to easterly, and increasing 30 to 35 knots, especially there from Kiska to Shemya. And along the southwest and west coast, Tuesday we have that low pressure that's going to track through the Bering and Seward Peninsula, so winds ahead of that feature southerly 25 to 30 knots in that wider expanse of Norton Sound to along the lower Yukon coast. There'll also be some showers coming in with that. And there is that high surf advisory at least through Tuesday morning. Waves running 6 to 8 feet. Water levels could run a couple feet higher than above the normal tide line. And then back further west, St. Matthew, winds swing around to the west at 20 knots. We have a 30-knot wind ahead of that front, especially early in the day into Kuskokwim Bay with waves 6 to 7 feet. By Wednesday, we have variable winds of just 10 knots around the Pribilovs, but west winds 20 knots within Bristol Bay, northwest winds of 20 knots within Kuskokwim Bay. And as we go up along the Yukon coast, generally north-northwest winds at 10 knots, waves a couple of feet, and then southwest winds into Norton Sound at 15 knots. For areas along the western Seward Peninsula, north side of St. Lawrence, look for south-southeast winds, 15 to 20 knots, waves 4 or 5 feet. Passing through the Bering Strait, lower Chukchi Sea will see southerly winds, 25 knots, waves 5-6 feet. Turning southwesterly as you round the Lisburn Peninsula at 20 knots up through Utqiagvik, as well as all the way east across the Beaufort Sea coastline, with waves generally running around 4 feet. And then on Wednesday, much of the region southerly flow. We're looking at generally southerly winds along the Beaufort Sea coast, offshore at 15 knots. And as we drop down through the Chukchi Sea, winds will generally be southerly, 15 to 20 knots, waves 3-4 feet. And then along the west side of the Seward Peninsula, Wales to Nome, and back towards Savunga and Gamble on St. Lawrence, winds will be southwesterly on Wednesday at 10 to 15 knots with waves of 3 to 4 feet.